السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. As usual, in front of you there is a paper that contains the verses that we will be discussing tonight. So we will begin with listening to a recitation from verse 10 up to 12, which is the end of the surah. And actually tonight will be the last day when we discuss Surah Tahreem. Next week we'll begin a new surah, which is Surah Talaq, that talks about divorce. So we will begin with listening to a recitation.
ضرب الله مثلا للذين كفروا امرأة نوح وامرأة لوط كانتا تحت عبدين من عبادنا صالحين فخانتاهما فلم يغنيا عنهما من الله شيئا وقيل ادخلا النار مع الداخلين.
Allah presents an example of those who disbelieved. The wife of Noah and the wife of Lot. They were under two of our righteous servants, but betrayed them, so those prophets did not avail them from Allah at all. And it was said, enter the fire with those who enter.
وضرب الله مثلا للذين آمنوا امرأة فرعون إذ قالت رب ابن لي عندك بيتا في الجنة ونجني من فرعون وعمله ونجني من القوم الظالمين.
And Allah presents an example of those who believed. The wife of Pharaoh, when she said, my Lord, build for me near you a house in paradise, and save me from Pharaoh and his deeds, and save me from the wrongdoing people.
ومريم ابنة عمران التي أحصنت فرجها فنفخنا فيه من روحنا وصدقت بكلمات ربها وكتبه وكانت من القانتين.
And the example of Mary, the daughter of Imran, who guarded her chastity. So we blew into her garment through our angel, and she believed in the words of her Lord and his scriptures, and was of the devoutly obedient.
Yeah, so this is the end of the surah. As usual, we begin with the keywords that will make us understand better the verses. So I have the word here, daraba. And actually this word daraba has a lot of connotations. Does anyone know any of the meanings of the word daraba? Daraba is in the past tense. Yes, Tony?
To hit.
To hit. Also it means to beat. Also to strike. And also it means to kick a penalty if you are a football player. Now here we have four main connotations, some of which are connected to the verses. If I say, for example, ضربته العقرب, عقرب is a scorpion. So if I say ضربته العقرب, it means لدغته, a scorpion stung him. Oh, he was stung by a scorpion. So here ضرب means to sting or to bite. It depends whether you're talking about a scorpion or a snake. Then ضرب الموعد. موعد means an appointment. So you set an appointment, you fix an appointment. So if someone fixed an appointment for you, we say ضرب الموعد. So here ضرب means to fix, to set an appointment, to specify an appointment. So if I say ضرب عليه الضريبة, ضريبة means tax. So we say he levied a tax on him, he imposed a tax on him. So فرضها عليه, فرض means to impose, to levy. So ضرب here means also to levy a tax, to impose a tax. If I say ضرب المثل, this means to set an example, to give an example, to quote as an example, to give as an example, to illustrate by example. to explain by example, to set forth an example for someone. So it means giving an example here, daraba. So as you can see, the word daraba has many connotations, but what we'll be discussing more is this, to give an example, to present an example. Then I have the word ahsana. It's in the past. So the infinitive of it is ihsan. So ahsana is in the past, ihsanan is the infinitive. If I say ahsan al-makan, ja'alahu hasinan, which means he fortified the place, he strengthened the place, he made it impenetrable. So for example, soldiers are camping somewhere, they don't want the enemies to penetrate into the area, they will make sure that they guard the place. So ahsan al-makan means to make the place strong, to fortify it, to make it impregnable, so that no one can have access to it. If I say ahsanatil mar'atu, mar'a means a woman, affat, she became chaste, she became decent, or she became respectable. Other word, in the main meaning is to become chaste, which means tazawwaj. Also it means tazawwajat, she got married. So when a woman gets married in Arabic, we say ahsanatil mar'a. This is another form of saying she got married, she was wedded. So qanitun means qa'imun bi-ta'a, a person who performs acts of worship, acts of obedience. Ta'a means to obey Allah. So a person who performs, actually qa'im means to stand up, to abide by, but the translation is a person who performs acts of obedience to Allah, muwadhibun alayha, constantly, continuously, diligently and continuously. A person who performs acts of worship, obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala diligently and constantly. So this person is qanit. Qanit also means a person who prays most of the time. So if a person performs prayer most of the time, we say he is qanit. Now we go back to the verses. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the beginning, He presented an example of the wife of Nuh and the wife of Lut. They were under the care of two among the righteous servants of Allah, prophets, who were righteous people, who treated them very well. Despite that, they continuously disbelieved in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of them would call her husband a madman, a crazy person. Another one would inform the people of that society whenever men visited Lut alayhi salam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala finally consigned them to the hellfire. So their association with the prophets will never avail them of anything on the day of judgment. Even before the day of judgment, when they were punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, their husbands did not protect them, their husbands did not help them. So this is giving us a message that your faith and good deeds are the ones that will deliver you from hardship and from punishment, not how you are related to someone else, whether your husband or your son. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us an example of women of faith, of a woman who was trustworthy, who was faithful, but under the care of a tyrant. Still, her husband did not prevent it. Being married to a non-believer did not prevent her to perform her religious duties. So there is no any excuse for someone to say, I was married to a non-believer, he influenced me in one way or the other, thus I wasn't able to worship Allah. So we tell him or her, we tell her that, you see, the wife of Pharaoh, she was actually tied by wedlock to Pharaoh, the worst tyrant on earth, yet she was a believer. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا, and Allah sets an example, لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, for those who believed. So Allah sets an example for those who believed and for those who still believe today. So those in the past who believed and those who are still believing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is presenting an example to us. An example of who? Imra'ata Fir'aun, the wife of Pharaoh. You know, we said before last week, does anyone remember? We said about this issue, imra'a. So usually when we write the word imra'a, which translates as a woman, we write it like this, with ta marbuta, imra'a. But here it's written with ta maftuha. And also when we want to say a wife in Arabic, we say zawja. Zawja means wife. Zawja, wife of so and so. But here, referring to the wife of Pharaoh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using the word imra'a, which means a woman. Does anyone know why? Why didn't Allah say zawjat Fir'aun? Why did he opt for this word imra'at Fir'aun? Yes, Hudayfa?
Because imra'a, you're just married but you don't have good relationships with them.
Yeah.
But zawja, your wife is mawata also.
Yeah, so when she's called a zawja, there is a good relationship, there is harmony between you and her. But imra'a, just you're married to one another, without any cordiality, without any intimacy. So imra'a here, this is why it's written with ta' maftuha, to show that there was no any relation, there was no any other relationship between Pharaoh and his wife apart from her being tied to him by wedlock. إذ قالت, when she said, the wife of Pharaoh, and we will see when she said that, إذ قالت, when she said, Rabb, my Lord, ibn li indaka baytan fil jannah, build for me near you a house in paradise. So she's using here the word Rabb. Rabb means my Lord, and actually the word Rabb is more profound than just saying my Lord. So why didn't she say Ya Allah? Why did she opt for this word Rabb? So should have said Ya Allah, or should have said Allahumma ibni li indaka baytan fil jannah, or Allah, build for me near you a house in paradise. But she said Rabb. What's the meaning of Rabb? Yes, Hudayfa?
Two reasons. The first reason to make Allah more happy and pleased, and the second reason, Rabb covers all the needs.
So Rabb is general. So Rabb is your creator, cherisher, protector, sustainer. And actually among the means of Rabb is the one who takes care of you, to raise you up, to nurture you, to discipline you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all in all for you. So she says Rabb because Allah is her safe haven, Allah is her protector, her creator, cherisher. So she appeals to her using an attribute that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. So she's using this word which is appropriate. Rabb, my Lord, ibni li indaka baytan fil jannah, build for me near you a house in paradise. وَنَجِّنِي مِنْ فِرْعَوْنَ وَعَمَلِهِ, and save me from Pharaoh and his evil deeds. So amal here, it alludes to evil deeds. She doesn't want to be associated with the evil deeds of Pharaoh. She doesn't want to be bound by Pharaoh in any emotional way. So she is asking Allah to save her, to rescue her from the Pharaoh. وَنَجِّنِي مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ, and also save me from the, actually ظالمين, it has a lot of connotations. Who knows the meaning of the word ظالم? The word ظالم, what does it mean? ظالم. Does anyone know what it means? The translation of it in English? ظالم. ظالم. Yes? Yes, sister? يظلمك. So an oppressor, someone who unfairly treats you, who is unjust. So someone who is unjust, an oppressor, a tyrant, a dictator, so who doesn't care about others, cruel person, a wrongdoer, a disbeliever, a polytheist. So all comes under zalim. Now zalim, it has a lot of profound connotations. First of all, zalim, a person who is a disbeliever, he is unfairly treating Allah. So how does he do injustice to Allah? Does anyone know? Zalim, he does injustice to Allah. How? He's not treating Allah fairly, the way Allah deserves to be treated. How? Yes, Hudayfa?
Because, for example, someone is worshipping Allah and then you kill him.
It means here, Allah created for us. For example, He says in Surah Al-Baqarah chapter 2 verse 29, هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ لَكُم مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. So Allah is the one who created for you everything on earth. So the only one who deserves your praise, okay, human beings can be praised, but the only one who deserves ultimate praise is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He created for you, He created you, He is protecting you, providing for you, and there is no way You can do things that can equate what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing for you. So He's doing for you much, and He's not expecting anything from you. Even when He is commanding you to worship Him, it's to your benefit. Allah does not benefit from our worship. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is protecting you, providing for you, instead of worshiping Him, you worship someone else. Isn't this unfair? So imagine, for example, someone helps you, he gives you a loan, and he helps you with his expertise. You establish a company, and you begin getting a lot of profits, and instead of giving tribute to this person, you give it to someone else who didn't help you at all. Isn't this injustice? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is doing everything for you, providing for you, protecting you, and who will be safe haven for you when you die, and who will be there for you on the day of judgment, instead of worshiping Him, you worship someone else. Isn't this unfair? Being unfair to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So dhalim is someone who is unfair and ingrate, who does not appreciate the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and who attributes the favors of Allah to someone else instead of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, dhalim is an oppressor of himself. He's doing injustice to himself. How? So this person who doesn't believe in Allah, who does not acknowledge the favors of Allah, is doing injustice to himself. Does anyone know why?
Yes.
Yes, brother?
In the case of Pharaoh, he used to refer himself as a god. So he would not respect Allah, and yet he was thinking he was a god himself.
Yeah, so he claimed to be God, yet he couldn't save himself when he was drowning. So by claiming to be God, he was doing injustice to himself. Because of that and other sins, he will languish in the hellfire forever. So he was doing injustice to himself by claiming to be God. What else? How can someone do injustice to himself if he doesn't believe in Allah? So dhalim, not only does he do injustice to others, he's doing injustice to himself as well. Why? Yes.
You can be punishing yourself, like if you know this is the right thing, yet you are turning it in the wrong way. You refuse to believe. You have the conviction that this is right, but you refuse to believe.
So psychologically, you will be in torture because you are having double personalities.
Yeah.
Inside of you, you believe that Allah is your creator, cherisher, the one who deserves to be worshipped, but ostensibly, for some ulterior motives, you claim that any other person is your creator, or you worship idols. So this double personality is punishment for you. You can't be happy like Abu Jahl and others. So psychologically, you will be having a lot of problems. So this is doing injustice to yourself. For example, if even in any person's hurt, if you do something against your will for one reason or the other, you won't enjoy it because it doesn't come from the heart. So this is one way of this person doing injustice to himself. Any other aspect? Yes, sister?
You will also bring bad things to your life, like bad
So,
friends, relations.
So if you don't follow the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will cause problems to yourself, because everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to do is to our benefit. So if you go against the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are torturing yourself. You are bringing harm to yourself. Yes, Udhaifa?
You put on some threads like lucky charms, you will have a good day, you won't have a bad day.
So you will subscribe to polytheism, to sorcery, so obeying others apart from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they will capitalize on your fear to extort money from you or to get some other benefits. Yet they know they can't harm or benefit you. They know only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do that. But because you don't have confidence, they will capitalize on that to threaten you. And we hear a lot, for example, someone who was engaged in a scandal, or someone who got something, he paid some bribe to get, for example, qualifications. So the very people who sold him those fake qualifications, they will constantly threaten him, call him that, they've discovered you have to pay this and that much. Most of the time we hear someone committing suicide because he had fake qualifications, and those very people who sold him those fake qualifications are always disturbing him. So all in all, if you go against the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are doing injustice to yourself. You can't be happy in this life. Yes, brother?
What is the name of Pharaoh's wife?
Asiya bint Muzahim. Asiya bint Muzahim. So she said, she asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to build for her a house near him in paradise, and to protect her, to save her from Pharaoh and his evil deeds, and from the polytheists, the unjust and the disbelievers, those who were unjust to themselves, to the community, and who were unfair with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Qatada says, Kana Fir'aun. Pharaoh was أعتى أهل الأرض وأكفرهم. He was the most tyrannical and the most disbeliever of the people of the earth. فوالله, I swear by Allah, ما ضر امرأته كفر زوجها حين أطاعت ربها. So the disbelief, Pharaoh's disbelief, did not affect his wife when she obeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So although he was the worst person, the worst dictator claiming to be God, his wife was a believer, and his status, his position did not prevent her from continuing to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what do we understand from this? So Pharaoh is the worst person, the worst disbeliever who claims to be God, and even he had set up some steps. He wanted to go up to fight against Allah. So imagine this person who was threatening Allah, his wife becomes a believer, and his tyranny does not affect her. What do we learn from this?
She was a very strong lady.
She was a very strong woman, and this is one of the reasons the Prophet ﷺ, when he was talking about the best women on earth, she's among them. What else?
Yes. And also she's sincere to herself.
So she was sincere to herself. First, sincere with Allah and sincere to herself. She would have hidden her faith, but she couldn't, because she was totally believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we will see what happened. So this is to convey a message to us, that even if you are married to a tyrant, even if you are married to a disbeliever, if you really want to continue believing in Allah, that his position or your relationship with him cannot prevent you from being a believer. So that's not an excuse that you can present to Allah on the day of judgment because your husband wasn't a believer, so it affected you. So Asiya bint Muzahim, the wife of Pharaoh, was not affected by his disbelief. Yes, brother?
From their name looks like this woman, she is Arab roots, and Pharaoh, he belonged to the old Egyptian. There is a confusion here, Sheikh.
Confusion. Actually, when you talk about names, does anyone know about anything about names? When you talk about names, we can't determine per se whether Asiya is an Arabic name or a non-Arabic name. Plus, who was the father of the Arabs? Who was the progenitor of the Arabs? When we go into history,
Arami.
The progenitor of the Arabs, who was that person? Or from whose offspring did the Arabs come? From Ismail. So Pharaoh, did he live before Ibrahim or after Ibrahim? After Ibrahim. So he lived after Ibrahim. So if he lived after Ibrahim, maybe there was a connection. And actually, we will be talking about this, if you are patient, when we talk about Musa, because it's a long story here talking about Musa and Asiya. So when we get to the story of Musa, we will talk about this inshallah. So Qatada says, he's swearing by Allah, who is one of the interpreters of the Quran, that the disbelief of Pharaoh did not affect his wife. And actually, although she was tortured by him, she continuously believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Tony, do you mind reading to us chapter 3 verse 28 of the Quran before we go ahead?
Let not the believers take for friends or helpers unbelievers rather than believers. If any do that, in nothing will there be help from Allah, except by way of precaution, that ye may guard yourselves from them. But Allah cautions you to remember Himself, for the final goal is to Allah.
So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al Imran chapter 3 verse 28, لا يتخذ المؤمنون الكافرين أولياء من دون المؤمنين ومن يفعل ذلك فليس من الله في شيء إلا أن تتقوا منهم تقاه وَيُحَذِّرُكُمُ اللَّهُ نَفْسَهُ وَإِلَى اللَّهِ الْمَصِيرُ. So the translation is, let not the believers take the disbelievers as allies instead of the believers. And whoever among you does this has nothing to hope for from Allah, except if you are safeguarding yourselves against the genuine fear from the disbelievers. And Allah warns you to beware of Him, for to Allah alone is the ultimate destiny. So in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is cautioning us against being allies to the disbelievers. However, according to many scholars, if you have relatives who are disbelievers, if you have friends who are disbelievers, you can deal with them. If you need them, you can cooperate with them. But if they plot something against the believers, don't be with them. If they do something against Islam, don't support them. So in attaining your needs, you are allowed to deal with them. So for example, you have a wife who is a disbeliever, a husband like Pharaoh and his wife, they were dealing with one another in things that they needed one another. But when it came to faith, then you have to distance yourself. And actually the problem between Pharaoh and his wife began when the hairdresser of the daughter of Pharaoh was combing the hair of Pharaoh's daughter. So the comb fell down. Does anyone know what she said? So the hairdresser is combing the hair of Pharaoh's daughter and the comb falls down. Does anyone know what she said? Yes, Hudayfa? She said, Bismillah. So the daughter of Pharaoh said, are you not believing in my father? The hairdresser said, no, I believe in God, who is my God, who is my Lord, and your father's Lord. So Pharaoh's daughter went and reported this incident to Pharaoh. So Pharaoh threatened her, and she was sincere in her faith. She told Pharaoh, I am not afraid of you, my creator is Allah. So Pharaoh killed her. So when Pharaoh killed her, his wife was angry. Pharaoh's wife, why do you kill her? Why are you not afraid? So Pharaoh said, are you also with her in the same faith? She said, yes, I believe in God who is your Lord. So this is when the problem happened. So Pharaoh started threatening his wife that if you don't desist from believing in the God in whom you are believing, then I will kill you. She said, no problem. So he went and talked to her mother that, go and warn your daughter. If she doesn't desist from her belief, I will kill her. So the mother of Asiya, Pharaoh's wife, tried to convince her to desist from her belief, but she didn't. She was stern in her faith. She was firm in her faith. So finally, Pharaoh ended up punishing her, as we will see. So when it came to faith, she couldn't. She said, no, I'm a believer. There is no way, although you are my husband, there is no way I can disobey Allah to please you. The Prophet ﷺ says, لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق. You are not allowed whatsoever to obey a creature, a human being, who encourages you to disobey Allah. So the wife of Pharaoh didn't agree to that. Yes, brother?
Did Pharaoh kill her?
Yes, he did. We will see. He did. He killed her. So Abu Musa al-Ash'ari says in a hadith that was narrated by Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كمل من الرجال كثير ولم يكمل من النساء إلا مريم بنت عمران وآسيا امرأة فرعون وفضل عائشة على النساء كفضل الثريد على سائر الطعام. So the translation is narrated by Abu Musa al-Ash'ari that the Prophet ﷺ said, many among men attained perfection. Many among men attained perfection, but among women none attained such perfection except Mary, the daughter of Imran, mother of Jesus, and Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh. So the Prophet ﷺ says, among women who attained perfection, Mary, the mother of Jesus, and Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh. Then the Prophet continues, he says, and the superiority of Aisha to other women is like the superiority of Tharid. Tharid was a favorable dish in Arabia. It was a dish made with bread soaked in broth and meat. So they mix broth and meat and they soak in it bread. So this meat was favorable. So the Prophet says, the way Tharid is superior to other foods, then Aisha is superior to other women. And there are different interpretations about this. Some scholars say the Prophet was comparing Aisha to other among his wives, and others say he was comparing her to all women. Now, does anyone know why the Prophet ﷺ would also mention Aisha? First, he mentioned Mary, the mother of Jesus, then the wife of Pharaoh, and then He said the superiority of Aisha compared to other women is like the superiority of tharid over other foods. Does anyone know why Aisha? Yes, Hudayfa?
Because Mary was virgin,
Mm-hmm.
and also Aisha was also virgin.
So Mary was virgin and Aisha was virgin. What else? Especially Aisha. Why Aisha? Aisha. And does anyone know among the reasons why the Prophet ﷺ married Aisha while she was still young? Because, sometimes people say, the Prophet was a womanizer. He used to like women. You see, he married Aisha when she was still young, this and that. They say a lot of things. But there are reasons. There are credible reasons as to why the Prophet married Aisha while she was still young. Yes, Hudayfa? She had a very strong memory. So the Prophet ﷺ marries her so that she can learn from him and teach other people about Islam. Although people like Abu Huraira and others had dedicated their lives to learning from the Prophet and then teach others, but in his private life, Abu Huraira wouldn't be there in his room, wouldn't be there in his apartment. So he wanted Aisha, a young girl who had a sharp memory, to learn from him and teach others. And indeed, Aisha would teach big companions of the Prophet. They would sit in front of her and she would teach them. So one of the reasons was to teach, to let her learn and then teach others, especially his private life, because his male companions or even the female companions who were not married to him wouldn't have access to his chambers except Aisha. So one of the reasons was she had a strong memory. What else? She was also intelligent. She would understand quickly. So a lot of prophetic narrations regarding Prophet Muhammad's private life were transmitted to us from Aisha radiallahu anha. So the Prophet ﷺ is giving her a credit for that. So what do we learn from this? So Aisha served Islam, served Muslims. The Prophet ﷺ didn't just marry her because she was young, he wanted to enjoy her. No, the main reason, that could be another reason, but the main purpose was for her to learn from him and then teach others. So what do we learn from this? Any answers? We learn from this that the Prophet ﷺ, in every move that he made, there was a reason, there was wisdom. And the wisdom was caring about his ummah, trying to make sure that those who will come after him will have credible knowledge from him. So he was not about himself, he was about others as well. Even in his marriage, he had some calculations. Number two, if someone did something superior, he would mention it. So if, for example, someone does you a favor, or if, for example, someone serves you well, you shouldn't forget that person. You shouldn't take him for granted. We have to thank them and we have to pray for them. Even if you are paying that person, if someone does something which is extraordinary, you have to thank this person for that. You have to reward him for that. Unfortunately, some people, because they employ someone, they task him with a lot of responsibilities. This person renders a lot of efforts in carrying out all those responsibilities. They don't even say thank you, let alone jazakallah khair. So according to Islam, if someone does you a favor, if you can't pay back, at least thank him or pray for him. So the Prophet ﷺ is teaching us a lesson here, mentioning Aisha, because indeed she did serve Islam and Muslims. So according to Abdullah Yusuf Ali, one of the interpreters of the Quran, one of the translators of the Quran in English, he says, Pharaoh's wife Asiya preserved her faith, her humility, and her righteousness was indeed a great spiritual triumph. She was probably the same who saved the life of the infant Musa. You remember Musa during that time when Musa ended up in the house of Pharaoh, or in the palace of Pharaoh. Pharaoh was killing every infant boy. Does anyone know why? So for example, he would say, every woman who deliver a boy in this year, we will kill him. The following year, no. So every other year, all the boys that were born would be killed. So does anyone know why? Yes, Hudayfa?
There were some magicians. They told Pharaoh there would be a boy who would come among his kingdom, and then he would kill Pharaoh.
So he saw a dream, and he went to someone to interpret the dream. So the dream was interpreted that someone from among the children who will be born in his kingdom will be the cause of his downfall. So to be afraid of his downfall, he decided to kill all the male children that were born. Little did he know that even if he killed them, the one who will cause his downfall will grow up in his house. So Musa ended up being brought to the palace of Pharaoh, and this is the one who brought his downfall. So the thing that you were afraid of happens in your house. So when the mother of Musa delivered Musa alayhi salam, and she was afraid, Allah inspired her to put him in a box and keep it and place it in the river. So Allah will take care of it. So the boy was placed in a box. He ended up in the garden of Pharaoh. His wife saw it and took the box and opened it. There was Musa, a very cute boy. So she said, we can take him as a son. We can adopt him. So she loved Musa. She took care of him. Even when he started proclaiming his message, she was among the people who believed in whatever he said. So this woman was taking care of Musa, who would end up being the cause of the downfall of her husband, whom she also didn't like because of his disbelief. So Abdullah Yusuf Ali says her spiritual vision was directed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rather than to the worldly pomp and splendor of Pharaoh's palace. So she didn't care about the luxury she was in because her faith was connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a lesson for us. So imagine someone is enjoying himself, but deep down in her heart, she doesn't approve of what her husband is doing. She loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She strongly believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Although she doesn't see him, but she saw the signs. So she says, I rather give up this luxury rather than enjoying for some time and ending up in hell. So what do we learn from this? Someone giving up the life of comfort and ease for the sake of Allah. What do we learn from this?
She was incredible, because she wasn't just a life of comfort. She was the number one, wasn't she?
Number one, yes.
She was the Pharaoh's queen.
Yes, yes.
She was the top of the chain, wasn't she? The top of the...
She was the top of the ladder. She was at the top of the ladder. She was number one, but she gave up everything because of faith. Yes?
From this story, I think we learned that you don't just care about this world. If you fear Allah, then you believe in Him, then you have to care about the hereafter, because there lies the original enjoyment. Like let's just say, here it's just small sample of what is in paradise.
Yeah, you know what? Someone brought to me a person. Someone called me, and he said his son was interested in learning about Islam. This person is a Muslim, but his son grew up in a non-Muslim country. So he called me. He said, my son wants to learn about Islam. So I have the impression that the boy is yearning to learn about Islam. So I'm preparing myself for someone who wants Islam, who loves Islam, who craves for more knowledge about Islam. So they come, I meet with them. So starting talking to the boy, he says, my father forced me to come here. I don't like anything connected to Islam. I don't love Islam. So I said, wow. The father called me that the son wants to learn about Islam. And here the son is telling me that his father forced him to come here. So I was quiet for some 3 minutes. Then I said, okay, your father did a mistake in front of his father to force you to come here. This is against Islam. There is no force in Islam. But since you are here, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about life. Then I started asking him questions. Do you have goals that you like to realize, that you like to fulfill? He said, yes. I said, have you seen people who have ambitions, who have goals, and they render a lot of efforts in order to achieve their goals, and before they reach even a quarter of their goals, they die? He said, yes. So I said, what happens after they die? So you've given everything, you've rendered a lot of efforts, you denied yourself luxury because you wanted to achieve these goals, and here you are, you're dying before achieving even 10%. What will happen? He was speechless. So I told him, from the Islamic point of view, if your intention at the beginning was to please Allah and then to seek your own vested interests, then even if you die before achieving half of your goals, Allah will reward you for that. So he started becoming curious. So indeed, here on earth, yes, how many of us have goals? We work so hard, we deny ourselves, we deny our children the luxuries of life, saying, you know, I want to build a company, I want to do this and that. You die before achieving 10%. So what happens? So did your efforts, have your efforts been futile? So the aim, if your aim is to do whatever you do to please Allah, even if you die before achieving 10% of your goals, Allah rewards you. So here on earth we are on transit, and the clever person is the one who connects everything that he does to the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if your aim is to please Allah, by the grace of Allah, you will benefit here on earth and in the hereafter. So another point is, even if she didn't reveal her faith, even if she gave up her faith because of this world, did she have any guarantees that she would live longer in order to continuously enjoy? Or would she be happy? So you can't buy happiness by material things. You can't buy happiness by money. You can't buy happiness by whatever. You can only, one of the reasons for you to be happy is to be who you are. Be who you are. So she taught us a lesson that once you are convinced about something, go for it. This is among the things that will bring you happiness. So the wife of Pharaoh was ready to give up everything for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and she didn't cave in to the threats of Pharaoh. وَقِيلَ, it was said, هَذَا حَثٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. This is an encouragement for the believers. This is an admonition for the believers. عَلَى الصَّبْرِ, to patiently persevere في الشِّدَّةِ, when you are in distress, when you are suffering, when you are in problems, patiently persevere. Keeping in mind that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing you, and if you react positively, you don't utter a word of disbelief, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you abundantly. Which means لا تكونوا أضعف من امرأة فرعون. So do not be weaker than the wife of Pharaoh. Don't say, you know, I've suffered a lot, I've decided to disbelieve because my husband is torturing me, or because in my country we don't have rights, so I have decided to apostatize from Islam. So the wife of Pharaoh didn't do that. She patiently persevered under the torture of her husband. And you know what? When you're tortured by a stranger, it doesn't pain like when you're tortured by someone closer to you. So if someone, for example, a stranger whom you don't know, if he punishes you or if he mistreats you, it doesn't pain much than when you are mistreated with your brother, your sister, your husband, your wife. So for her it was double punishment. First, physical punishment that she got from him, and secondly, a person who had been intimate with her. Maybe she had sacrificed a lot of things to being with him, and now here he is, because of her belief, he's punishing her, torturing her. So double punishment. Abu Huraira says, Inna Fir'auna, indeed Pharaoh, wattada limra'atihi arba'ata awtad. Pharaoh fixed 4 pegs in the ground. So he hammered, or he fixed 4 pegs in the ground and tied the legs and hands of his wife firmly on those pegs in the ground. So the pegs are fixed firmly in the ground. Then he tied his wife to those pegs. فَكَانُوا إِذَا تَفَرَّقُوا عَنْهَا أَضَلَّتْهَا الْمَلَائِكَةِ. So after his torture sessions, so he tied her legs, her hands, she couldn't move, and this was under a scorching sun, under the heat of the sun. So whenever he finished his torture session, maybe he was tired, he wants to rest, and the people who were bystanders, who were observing how he was torturing his wife, after they had dispersed, the angels would shade her with their wings. the angels would shed her with their wings. So one day, after she had been tortured for a long time, she had been suffering, she prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to build for her a house in paradise. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed her that house, and this coincided with the presence of Pharaoh. So Pharaoh was there, Allah is showing her her house in paradise. She laughed. So Pharaoh was surprised. He told the people who were around, "Are you not surprised? We are punishing her and she's laughing. Isn't she crazy?" Little did he know that she saw something in paradise. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed her what she had asked for. So she was happy to go there and meet with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, and actually this is also an embarrassment. Imagine you are torturing someone, you are expecting this person to cry, and here he is or she is laughing. How would you feel? So you're punishing someone and he's laughing. How would you feel? Yes, sister?
Humiliated?
You feel humiliated, right? Yeah. Because you're expecting them to plead with you, "Please forgive me, please, I want to worship God again, I will worship you, please." No, she's not crying, she's laughing. So Pharaoh felt humiliated. What else? How would you feel? For example, if you're punishing your son or you're punishing someone and they're laughing, how would you feel? Yes, brother? You feel?
Defeated.
You feel defeated. Yes. So Pharaoh felt defeated. What else? You feel insulted. You feel disrespected. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed her paradise when she was being tortured, and she laughed so that Pharaoh could feel defeated. That, no matter how you punish her, she won't flinch. She won't apostatize. And this is an attitude of a true believer who really believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَقِيلَ, it was also said, سَمَّرَ يَدَيْهَا وَرِجْلَيْهَا فِي الشَّمْسِ. So Pharaoh, mercilessly, he nailed her hands and legs under the heat of the sun. وَوَضَعَ عَلَى ظَهْرِهَا الرِّحَةَ. As if that wasn't enough, he also placed a handmill on her back. So here, her hands and legs are nailed under the scorching sun, and then he placed a handmill, which is heavy, on her back. فَأَطْلَعَهَا اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ عَلَى بَيْتِهَا فِي الْجَنَّةِ. In this situation, when she was being tortured like this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed her her house in paradise. So what do we learn from this? So while she's being tortured, angels come to her, they shed her from the heat of the sun, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows her her house in paradise, which she had asked for. She said, "Oh Allah, my Lord, build for me a house near you in paradise." So when she was punished, Allah showed her the house. What do we learn from this?
She was so close to God, this woman. There is many secrets in her life.
She was so close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One. Yes, brother?
She submitted herself to Allah.
She
submitted herself to Allah.
She submitted herself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, sister?
Allah was comforting her by showing her.
Yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was comforting her by showing her her palace in paradise. So Allah is telling her that, don't worry, you gave up the luxury on earth, you will get more in paradise. So you would eat, drink, lead a life of comfort and ease in paradise, substituting for what you've lost. So this is a lesson to us that if you give up something for the sake of Allah, Allah will give you more. And when you get it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's salubrious, it's healthy, it's in all aspects, it's beneficial for you and enjoyable. Just the idea of knowing that it's coming from Allah, this in itself is a grace from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah was comforting her. So if someone, for example, someone stole $10 million. He stole $10 million. He's keeping them somewhere. And they tell him, "We will flog you 100 times. We will flog you 100 times if you don't tell us where the money is." So will this person show them where the money is? They rather flog him, and after that he goes and takes the money. So he has a goal. He has something that he will bear, that he's expecting. So whatever he goes through, he doesn't care, because there is something that he's aiming at. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed her her goal. She said, "Let me bear, because I will be going there." Now in this there is a lesson for us. Allah showed her a house in paradise when she was being tortured. What do we learn from this in our daily lives? So here she is, her husband is torturing her, punishing her. Allah is showing her where she's going. Yes, brother.
Maybe focus on the hereafter.
Focus on the hereafter. So you focus on the hereafter, don't worry about what will happen to you. And you know, there is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which is an authentic hadith, that on the day of judgment, they will bring a person who led the most miserable life on earth, who was the most unfortunate. He didn't enjoy at all. It was all suffering in his life. This person will be placed for a minute in paradise. Then he will be asked, have you ever suffered? He will say no. And a person who enjoyed the most, more than anyone else, a person whom everyone was looking up to, that I would like to be like so and so. This person who enjoyed himself but didn't believe in Allah, didn't do righteous deeds, will be immersed in the hellfire for 1 minute. Then he will be asked, have you ever enjoyed? He will say no. Double punishment. Because you know what, when you read books about happiness, they say that, you know, you have to lie down in a relaxed manner in a good place and start bringing up the memories of good places which you visited, islands, the people you're around. This will be among the factors that will bring you happiness, memories. So there you don't have memories to remember what you did on earth. In other words, no matter how much you enjoy, when you get punished in the hellfire, all the memories will go. So we have a lot of people who say, let me enjoy myself. When I die, what shall I say? I will keep the memories. You won't have those memories. If you go to hell or if you go to paradise, if you suffered, you won't have bad memories. Tony, before you leave, do you mind reading to us chapter 28, verses 7 to 9? Surah Al-Qasas.
So we sent this for inspiration to the word of Moses. Suckle thy child, but when thou hast fears about him, cast him into the river. But fear not nor grieve, for we shall restore him to thee, and we shall make him one of our apostles. Then the people of Pharaoh picked him up from the river. It was intended that Moses should be to them an adversary and a cause of sorrow. For Pharaoh and Haman and all their hosts were men of sin. The wife of Pharaoh said, here is joy of the eye for me, and for thee, slay him not. It may be that he will be used to us, or we may adopt him as a son. And they perceived not what they were doing.
So thank you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَى أُمِّ مُوسَى أَنْ أَرْضِعِيهِ فَإِذَا خِفْتِ عَلَيْهِ فَأَلْقِيهِ فِي الْيَمِّ وَلَا تَخَافِي وَلَا تَحْزَنِي إِنَّا رَدُّوهُ إِلَيْكِ وَجَعِلُوهُ مِنَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ فَالْتَقَطَهُ آلُ فِرْعَوْنَ لِيَكُونَ لَهُمْ عَدُوًّا وَحَزَنًا إِنَّ فِرْعَوْنَ وَهَامَانَ وَجُنُودَهُمَا كَانُوا خَاطِئُونَ وقالت امرأة فرعون قرة عين لي ولك لا تقتلوه عسى أن ينفعنا أو نتخذه ولدا وهم لا يشعرون. So the translation is, so we revealed to Moses his mother, the mother of Moses. Allah is saying he revealed to the mother of Moses after she had delivered him, nursed him, breastfed him. Then when you fear for his life, cast him into the river in a wooden box, and do not fear Pharaoh, and do not grieve over his parting. Indeed, we will most surely return him to you, and we will make him one of the messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thereafter, the house of Pharaoh retrieved him from the river Nile. Now here, there is a miracle here. So imagine, even if you are in a dangerous situation, someone tells you to throw your infant in a river. Can you? Can you? So what does this mean? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals to the mother of Musa to place him in river Nile, and she does. She doesn't question this. She doesn't even hesitate. What do you learn from this? Deep faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She had deep faith and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even when you are commanded to do something which is inconceivable to you, you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will find a way for you. And Allah promised her, He said, we will unite you with her. Does anyone know what happened eventually? So Musa was being taken by the family of Pharaoh into the palace of Pharaoh. Does anyone know what happened?
Yeah, Musa's mother was working in the palace of the...
So they tried to find someone to nurse him, to breastfeed him, but he was refusing all those women until finally his mother. So his mother was employed to nurse him, and the Pharaoh didn't know that this was the mother of Musa. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is fulfilling his promise. So this happened with Musa and other prophets. It will happen to you and to me if we sincerely follow the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's not easy. Even if you are in a dangerous situation, even if someone is firing at you at your house, as a mother, maybe some men, but as a mother, your infant, to throw him in a river, it's inconceivable, right? But she did it because she had faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fulfilled his promise. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is here implying that Pharaoh was stupid because he was afraid of his downfall, and his downfall came, the cause of his downfall was in his house. So what do we learn from this?
No matter what you do in life, your destiny it can be delayed, but it can never change.
So your destiny can be delayed but will never change, and don't allow a human being to threaten you to disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this person who threatens you, something can happen to him or to her, and then you find yourself being rescued in a manner which you do not know. So Pharaoh was killing everyone because he was afraid a child would be born and this would be the cause of his downfall. Little did he know that the real cause of his downfall would be in his house, would be brought up in his house, eating, sleeping with them, drinking, eating their food, drinking whatever they were drinking. So that very person whom he cared about, whom his wife cared about, would bring about the downfall. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has predetermined something to happen, there is no way you can change it. There is no way you can escape from the preordainment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what you have to do is to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in a hadith that was narrated by Abdullah ibn Abbas, he drew 4 lines on the ground. He was with his companions, so he drew 4 lines, probably like this on the ground. He didn't know how to read and write, but he drew 4 lines. So he asked his companions, do you know what this means? Or do you know what these 4 lines represent? They said, Allah wa rasuluhu a'lam. Allah and his messenger know the best. So the Prophet ﷺ said, Afdalu nisa'i ahlil jannah Khadija bint Khuwaylid. The best women of the people of paradise will be Khadija, his wife, Prophet's wife, Fatima, his daughter, as Maryam, Mary, the mother of Jesus, and Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh. So the Prophet drew those 4 lines which represented those 4 women who will be the best women of the people of paradise. Now, does anyone know why the Prophet had to draw these 4 lines? He could have just told them the best women are Khadija, Fatima, Asiya, and Mary. So why did he have to draw the 4 lines?
Yeah, maybe to put them in categorical order. Like this one first and this second. This
to put them in categorical order. So the first line represents the first woman whom he mentioned. The second one. What else? Yes.
He always taught with example.
Yeah, teaching by example. So to make it easier for them to understand. Because when he draws 4 lines, you will definitely know that these are 4 women. It's, for example, you know, people are always confused when we talk about Hud and Saleh. Both of them are prophets. Prophet Hud and Saleh. Let's see, Prophet Hud and Saleh. In the name of Hud, how many letters are there? 3. 1, 2, 3. Saleh, 4. So Hud was sent to which tribe? He was sent to Ad. The name of the tribe, how many letters does it consist of? 3. 1, 2. So Hud, 3 letters. Ad, 3 letters. He was sent to Ad. Saleh was sent to which tribe? Thamud. How many letters? 4. So you make it easy for the people to understand. So the Prophet ﷺ is giving us an example here, illustrating to us that if you are a teacher, you have to simplify matters to the students to make it easier for them to understand. So he's drawing the lines so that first they know there were 4. When you see 4 lines, you know there were 4. And to follow the order of the name, the order of those ladies according to how the Prophet ﷺ mentioned them. Yes, brother.
But looks like Aisha are not among these 4. She's out of the calculation.
Even in that hadith, the first one, she was a by the way, because she didn't suffer like these women. They suffered a lot. When you read about them, they did indeed suffer. And actually, this shows how the Prophet ﷺ was fair. He would have said, you know, my wife, let me include her. No. He included those women, some of whom even he didn't see. He didn't meet with Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh. He didn't meet with Mary, the mother of Jesus. So here he's saying the best women, Mary, the mother of Jesus. And this is to prove to the Christians that we don't have problems with Jesus. We don't have problems with the mother of Jesus. And actually, there is a whole chapter in the Quran by the name of Mary, Maryam. Why didn't the Prophet name a chapter by the name of Khadija or his mother? But rather, he named it by the name of Mary. And this is to show to us religion is not about tribalism, is not about nepotism, it's about the truth. And actually this is a lesson to us that you don't employ people because they are well connected to you. You employ them because you know they will deliver. So if you know someone that will do the job more than your relative, you give that person the priority. If we implement this, we will prosper. So the Prophet is implicitly teaching us a lesson. Don't fall into the trap of tribalism, nepotism. If someone deserves the credit, give it to him, even if they are strangers. So he's telling us about women whom even he didn't see. What else do we learn from this?
And also, he's trying to tell us that in fact, he was sent by God. All those messages were delivered to him by God. He just didn't make it up on his own.
Yeah, so this is also a demonstration that the message he got was from Allah. It wasn't from him as a human being. So he's just delivering the message the way he received it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Abu al-Aliya, one of the interpreters of the Quran, says, اطلع فرعون على إيمان امرأته فخرج على الملأ فقال لهم. So Fir'aun one day he came to understand about the faith of his wife. So he was angry. Driven by this anger, he went out to an assembly of his followers. He went to them. So when he knew that his wife is a believer, believing in one God, the God of Musa alayhi salam, he was angry and he went out to meet with his followers. So when he met with them, he asked them, ما تعلمون من آسيا بنت مزاحم. What do you know about Asiya, the daughter of Muzahim, his wife? So he wants an opinion of his followers about his wife. فأثنوا عليها. They praised her. They said she's good, she's a good woman, she's sincere. They started praising her. So after praising her, he said, إنها تعبد ربا غيري. Indeed, she's worshipping a Lord other than me. She's worshipping someone else. Upon hearing this, they said, اقتلها, kill her. So imagine, at first they praised her. Now when he tells them that she's worshipping another God, not him, they're telling him to kill her. So when he heard this, فَأَوْتَدَ لَهَا أَوْتَادًا وَشَدَّ يَدَيْهَا وَرِجْلَيْهَا. So she fixed pegs in the ground and tied her hands and legs to them firmly and started punishing her. What do you learn from this? So at the beginning they said she's good. Now after he told them that she's worshipping another God, not him, they said kill her. What do we learn from this? Yes, Hudayfa?
It's hypocrisy, and also it's similar to Abdullah bin Salam.
Yeah, Abdullah bin Salam was a Jew. He was convinced about Islam because he had seen the signs of prophethood in Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he went to the Prophet, and that was a few days after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had arrived in Medina from Mecca. So he told the Prophet, he said, "O Messenger of Allah, indeed the Jews are a treacherous people." So the Prophet said, how? He said, I will prove to you I will prove it to you in what is going to happen. So Abdullah bin Salam tells the Prophet, I am intending to become a believer, to become a Muslim, but before I do that, I suggest to you to assemble them, bring them together, then ask them about me. So the Prophet ﷺ assembled them together, the Jews. He said, what do you know about Abdullah bin Salam? They said, he's the best among us, the son of a noble man, grandson of a good man, the most knowledgeable. They started praising him. So after some time, the Prophet says, what if I tell you that he became a believer? They said, may God forbid, he can't become a believer. Then Abdullah bin Salam got out and said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. I testify that there is no one worthy to be worshipped except Allah, and Prophet Muhammad is a messenger of Allah. Upon hearing this, they said, he is the worst person, son of the worst person. Now what changed? Within 2 minutes? Just because he said he's a believer, now you're saying he's the worst person? What do we learn from this? The same thing with the wife of Pharaoh. These followers, and actually this is a lesson to rulers, kings. Do not be fooled by the seemingly support of your people when you are still in position. Because when you're still in power, being afraid of you or expecting a lot from you, they will praise you. They will agree with everything you tell them. But once you are deposited from power, then you will know who really liked you or who didn't. And actually, one of the companions of the Prophet was asked by his son. He said, you know what? A long time ago, we used to visit rulers, we used to visit governors, and we would praise them, but immediately after we got out of their houses, we would start insulting them. Then that companion of the Prophet said, this is hypocrisy. So if deep down in your heart, you know the praises you are singing in front of that person aren't sincere, don't praise him. So be yourself. So this is hypocrisy. So those people, because they were afraid of Pharaoh, they would say what he wanted to hear. They would do what he wanted them to do. What else do you learn from this?
That the disbelievers never like the believers.
The disbelievers will never trust the believers. What else? Yes.
Will not be so preoccupied.
Beg your pardon?
Will not be so preoccupied to please others.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So in whatever you do, your aim should be to please Allah, not to please human beings. Because even if you try hard to please human beings, some of them will not appreciate it. So even if you go out of your way to do things which are dangerous for you, you want to please someone, sometimes they will misinterpret. You know, I know someone who complained. He was volunteering with an organization. Now, he heard some people backbite him saying that, you know, this guy is devoting his time, working so hard. It seems there is something he's after. He's not just volunteering. So imagine someone who is doing a job, you're not paying him, you're entertaining some doubts about that person. So I told that person, maybe they themselves, they have ulterior motives. This is why they think about you the way they know themselves, they are deep down in their hearts. So pleasing a human being is very difficult. So a clever person is the one who works hard to please Allah. And if you please Allah, He's happy with you. He will cast the love in the hearts of the people to love you, and the angels will love you. There is a hadith about this. If Allah loves someone, He will announce to the angels that I love so and so, so love him. He will announce to the people I love so and so. So our focus should be to please Allah, not to please human beings. Yes, give them their rights, respect them, do whatever, but you do that being motivated by the love of Allah, not expecting rewards from them, not expecting them to pay back. What else do you learn from this? So Pharaoh is announcing to the people that his wife believes in another god apart from him, and that's his wife.
Maybe the people was saying all those good things about her because they believed that she was part of them. As soon as they learned that she was not part of them, then they tried to say bad things about her.
So that was selfish.
Yeah.
So the wife of Pharaoh said, وَنَجِّنِي مِنْ فِرْعَوْنَ وَعَمَلِهِ, and save me from Pharaoh and his evil deeds. So what she meant by evil deeds, disbelief. So keep me away, save me from Pharaoh and his disbelief. Don't make me part of it. وَقِيلَ, it was said, it means save me from his punishment, وَظُلْمِهِ from injustice, وَشَمَاتَتِهِ. Shamata. You know, shamata, this is when someone gloats over your grief. So you are suffering and someone becomes happy in your suffering, gloating over your grief, gloating over your predicament. So this wife is saying, oh Allah, save me from the punishment, rescue me from the punishment of Pharaoh, from his injustice and from his gloating over my predicament. Because when he is punishing me, he will be laughing. Where is your God? You claim that you believe in God. Where is he now? I'm here torturing you. Why doesn't he help you? So she was asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save her from Pharaoh gloating over her grief, gloating over her predicament. Ibn Abbas says she was asking Allah to save her from having sexual intercourse with him. Now here, because I don't want to go into details, let me just quote a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ was warning his companions against beating their wives, against assaulting their wives physically. He said in a hadith that was narrated by Abdullah bin Zam'a, لا يجلد أحدكم امرأته جلد العبد ثم يجامعها آخر اليوم. No one among you should flog his wife the way he flogs his slave and then be intimate with her at the end of the day. Now, we learn from this, actually when I give courses on marriage, we learn from this that you are not allowed to have intimacy with your wife when she's not in good moods. And we can go on and on. So you have to make her happy, so that both of you enjoy, not the enjoyment to be from one side. So here, because there is no harmony between her and her husband, he believes in something else, she believes in something else, he's torturing her, so she's asking her, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to save her, to rescue her from being intimate with him. Any comments about this? And actually, being in good moods, both of you, husband and wife, is very important when you want to be intimate. You can research it psychologically. If you are not intimate, if you're angry with one another, you enjoy your conjugal rights by force, and it so happens that the wife conceives that night, it's a problem to the child. So you can research it, but here the wife of Pharaoh was praying to Allah to keep him away from her. And of course, she didn't have any love for him. She didn't have any passion for him, no feelings at all. So how can someone who has no feelings for someone be intimate with him? So this is a lesson for us in so many ways. So she's asking Allah to protect her from that man. She doesn't like him now because according to her, he's a disbeliever. He claims to be God. Even the idea of being together near him, she doesn't like it. She's totally a believer in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and she doesn't want her belief to be contaminated by someone who claims to be God. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then gives us an example. وَمَرْيَمَ ابْنَةَ عِمْرَانَ الَّتِي أَحْصَنَتْ فَرْجَهَا. So another example is that of Mary, the daughter of Imran, who protected her private part. فَنَفَخْنَا فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِنَا. So we blew into it of our life-giving spirit. وَصَدَّقَتْ بِكَلِمَاتِ رَبِّهَا. And moreover, she believed as true the words of her Lord, وَكُتُبِهِ, and his divine books, وَكَانَتْ مِنَ الْقَانِتِينَ. And she was among the devout worshippers of Allah. So Allah is praising Maryam. So أَحْصَنَتْ فَرْجَهَا, it means حَفِظَتْهُ وَصَنَتْهُ. She protected and safeguarded her private part. There are many ways. So she did not engage in adultery, fornication. She couldn't expose her private part to anyone. No one would see it. So according to Islam, it's haram to show your private part to someone else. So والإحصان, الإحصان means هو العفاف والحرية. So to be chaste, to be modest, to be decent, and to be free from immorality. So she was chaste and free from immorality. وقيل, it was said, أحصنت فرجها من الفواحش. So she protected and safeguarded her private part from immoral acts, from shameful acts. فنفخنا فيه من روحنا. It means إن الله تعالى بعث إليها جبريل. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to her angel Gabriel alayhi salam, peace be upon him, فتمثل لها في سورة بشر, who appeared to her in the shape of a human being, sawi, in all respect. So Jibril, when he approached her, he was like a human being, like a man in all respect. وَأَمَرَهُ, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded her أَنْ يَنْفُخَ بِفِيهِ فِي جَيْبِ دِرْعِهَا, so to blow by his mouth in a slit of her gown. So here I underlined the word dir'. Dir' has a lot of connotations. Does anyone know the meaning of dir'? The word dir', it has many connotations. Dir'. Yeah, now they call it dara', but in classical Arabic it should be dir'. It's a gown, a garment. Yeah, dir'. Also dir' means a shield. It's armor, coat of mail, shield, armor, coat of mail, gown, garment. And actually the real meaning of it, قَمِيصٌ تَلْبِسُهُ الْمَرْأَةُ فِي بَيْتِهَا, it's a shirt or a garment or a gown that a woman wears in her house. So when she's free in the house, she wears this dress, dir'. So
This is what we call in Arabic.
they call it dara'. So in classical Arabic it's dir'. So
Also, when you give somebody like a glass ornament,
mm-hmm. Yes, a plaque.
how is it derived from this word?
Okay, actually, dir', as you said, dir' is also, as you said, it's a plaque. So, for example, someone did something. So, dir', I think it's a plaque because you are protecting this person from, if, for example, you offer a plaque to this person, honoring him, appreciating his services, you are protecting him from what's called malicious obedience. Malicious obedience is someone is working for a company, they don't appreciate him, he works so hard, he suggests things, they don't listen to his suggestions, so he will end up obeying them. Even if he knows what they are suggesting is wrong, he will do it because they want him to do it, even if it's wrong. So it's malicious obedience. Because they don't appreciate you, they don't listen to you, they don't value your suggestions. So you say, okay, I will do what they want, which will ruin the company itself in the long run. So by appreciating this person, giving him a plaque, giving him a gift, you are actually protecting your company from malicious obedience and from other dangers that could ensue when people see that, they don't get appreciated when they work. So it's protection, it's all protection. So protection from, for example, if you are an army, you're protecting yourself from an enemy. Dir' gown, you're protecting your private parts. So here, Angel Gabriel, according to Tafsir, when he was sent by Allah to blow the spirit, the soul of Jesus into Mary, because it was a miraculous, immaculate birth, so and actually according to Ibn Abbas, that he blew into an opening, a gap in the gown or in the garment. Ibn Abbas says, نَفَخَ جِبْرِيلُ فِي جَيْبِ الدِّرْعِ. So Jibril blew in a slit, in an opening of her garment, of her gown, بِحَيْثُ مَدَّهُ. He stretched it. So stretching the gown up, مَدَّهُ بِأُصْبُعَيْهِ, by his two fingers. So Angel Gabriel stretched the gown by his two fingers, then he blew in it. وَكُلُّ مَا فِي الدِّرْعِ مِنْ خَرْقٍ وَنَحْوِهِ فَإِنَّهُ يَقَعُ عَلَيْهِ اسْمُ الْفَرْجِ. So everything in a gown or a garment, every gap, every opening, every tear in the gown or garment, it's called farj. The main meaning of farj is a private part, but every opening, according to Ibn Abbas, in a woman's garment or gown is called farj. So Angel Gabriel blew the soul of Jesus into Maryam through a slit of her garment, then the breath went up to the womb of Mary, because according to some interpreters of the Quran, she had protected her private part, and Angel Gabriel respected that. Yeah, actually, waqila, it was said, yuhtamal, it's possible, annaha ahsanat farjaha, she protected her private part. she made it inaccessible. فَنَفَخَ جِبْرِيلُ فِي الدِّرْعِ. So Jibril rather blew the soul of Jesus into a slit of her garment because she had protected her private part. And actually this is part of...
Honestly, she must have been terrified.
Of course she was, yeah.
He came to her,
Yeah. Yes.
He doesn't know who he is.
Yeah.
So she must have been so scared.
Yes, she was, yeah.
Naturally.
Yeah, of course, naturally she was a virtuous woman, and this is a stranger coming in the shape of a man. She was scared. So actually another meaning of dira, it's qamisun naum, night gown, night shirt, night dress. So these all are among the meanings of ad-dir. So here Mary protected herself, protected her chastity, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Gabriel in the shape of a man in order to blow into her the soul of Jesus. Now the question is, for how long did Jesus stay in the womb of his mother as a fetus? For how long? 9 months. So majority of the scholars and interpreters of the Quran, they say 9 months. However, Ikrimah says he stayed there for 8 months. And according to his interpretation, Ikrimah, he says this is why if a child is born after 8 months, he won't survive, he would die. Is it true? A child born after 8 months? So Ikrimah was wrong, right?
Maybe at that time, yeah.
Maybe at that time, not nowadays. And Ibn Abbas says it was just a moment. So Jibril was sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to breathe into her the soul of Jesus. She conceived and then she gave birth. But if you follow the story, as we will see, it took some time, because when people started accusing her, she moved from that town to another. So majority say it was 9 months. So Jesus stayed in the womb of his mother for 9 months. Now this is the end of the surah. How is it connected to the beginning of it? Because the beginning of it was Aisha and Hafsa collaborating with one another, striking a sensitive chord, saying that they detected a bad smell from the mouth of the Prophet. That wasn't the real case. They were jealous because he would spend more quality time with Zainab bint Jahsh, who was giving him honey. So how can we connect the end of the surah with the beginning of it? The beginning of it, the end with the beginning.
Very much a surah for women, isn't it?
Yeah, it's talking. Yeah, we're talking about women.
Women's Day.
Oh, yeah, okay. International Women's Day. Yeah, right. Yeah, how is it connected? The end of it and the beginning of it.
And then giving them examples of like a model.
So actually, it's an implicit lesson to Aisha and Hafsa. You people, you're lucky. You're having Prophet Muhammad, the best prophet, the best human being, treating you well, and then you're finding faults with him. You are making an issue with him. What about Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh, who was being tortured? She suffered for her faith. And for you, you can easily practice your faith, obey Allah without any problems. Don't take this for granted. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling Aisha indirectly and Hafsa, don't take this opportunity for granted, because many women didn't have such luxury, having a good husband, encouraging them, the best man, and then you cooperate against him. What about Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh, who suffered a lot for her faith? So for you, it's coming to you on a silver platter. So don't take this chance for granted. What else? What else do we learn from what else is the connection between the end of the surah and the beginning of it? You know, always when you compare with your situation with the situation of with a worse situation than yours, you will learn to appreciate more. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling Aisha, Hafsa and others, your situation is much better than the situation of Asiya, but she didn't grow weak in faith. So you have to be much grateful to Allah, and you have to respect the Prophet, peace be upon him, and you have to appreciate how he treats you. Look at how Pharaoh was treating his wife, Asiya, who died actually when she was being tortured. What else? connection between the end of the surah and the beginning of it. Yes, sister?
She died while she was being tortured?
Yes. She died at one of the torture sessions of Pharaoh.
So there were many sessions?
Yeah. Many sessions of torture. So actually, that time when she saw her palace in paradise while Pharaoh was torturing her and he left, that's when she asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to build a house for her. She saw it in paradise, she laughed, and then she died. Yes, brother?
Did she have children with Pharaoh?
I'm not sure. I will research it, but I guess the daughter... this is an interesting question. Does anyone know if she had children with Pharaoh? I will research it, but I think she did. I think she did, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, because
She had children with him. Yeah, Pharaoh had children, but we don't know, were they from this woman or from another? Probably they could be from another woman. I will research it.
Because that was the same daughter who reported the
Yeah, there is a daughter who reported the hairdresser. So
if that daughter is the daughter of the wife, it wouldn't have been like that, because maybe the woman would have like adopted some
yeah, because she had the habit of adopting children. So we don't know. I will research it and tell you. I'm not sure. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Yes, sister?
I have a question, a generic question. I don't know, it might be a silly question. But like all of the prophets, when they died and they're buried, do they go straight to Allah, or are they Ahlul Diyar? And then Yawm al-Qiyamah they will of course go to Jannah and leave us. People of the book.
Yeah, actually, there is a hadith about the souls of the prophets and the martyrs. They are in a special place in paradise. Their souls are there in the special place in paradise, but their bodies are in the graves. However, according to some accounts, their bodies can't get rotten. They are preserved the way they are. So the same way they died will be the same way until the day of judgment. So they can't be eaten by the insects. They can't decompose. This is special for the prophets. And their souls are somewhere in paradise in an elevated place. Because right now there is no one in paradise until the day of judgment. This is when people will go to paradise and others will go to hell. But those who die, who are righteous, the martyrs, the prophets, their souls are in a special place, eating, drinking, enjoying over there, and waiting for the day of judgment.
so she's a martyr.
Yes. Yes. She's a martyr. Yeah, she's classified as a martyr. Yes, sister?
Is there any hadith or information about the things that you should ask during your prayers? Because she's not asking like, oh, Allah, give me another husband, give me something. She's asking for something on the day after. So could it be like considered bad to pray to be taken away from any pain or something?
No, it's not bad. It's not bad. You can pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to alleviate the pain. It's not bad. You can ask Allah that. But for her, because if you remember, she was praying to Allah to save her from Pharaoh gloating over her predicament. So when she saw the paradise, she wanted to go. When she saw her palace, so she wanted to go quickly. She didn't want to leave. Otherwise, in that situation, in those evil people, she didn't want to be associated with them. You can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything so long as it's legitimate. If it's halal, you can ask. Alleviate pain, remove you from distress. For example, if you have a husband who is disturbing you now, to pray to Allah to give you a better one, it's okay. Yeah. Okay, Jazakumullah khair. See you inshallah on Thursday.